Should Manchester United sign James Maddison today? We're going to be looking into the fee, his injury record, and of course what he could bring Ten Hag's Manchester United. Leicester City want to cash in on the England international in the summer, and Man United could be a pretty decent option. We're also going to be diving into United's 1-0 win over Aston Villa in the Premier League, basically cementing Manchester United's top 4 status at the end of the season. United went into the game mixing up the formation, but also playing Marcus Rashford as a number 9. Today, we're going to evaluate Rashford's performance as a centre-forward, but also dive into a little bit of tactics and statistics on the match. Unai Emery's side came into the game in very, very good form. Only City have picked up more points, but Emery's side have scored in every single game going into the game at Old Trafford. And I think one of the big things that United needed to do was contain Watkins, but also utilise the pace in behind the Aston Villa line. Aston Villa really compact the game under Unai Emery. They squeeze high in their 4-4-2 defensive shape, looking to get bodies behind the ball. But one thing that you can do is look to get balls in behind. We saw some great movement from Rashford, but also Bruno Fernandes to break behind the Aston Villa defensive line. So we'll dive into a little bit of chat around that. We'll do some analysis on Marcus Rashford and his role as a 9. And for me, potentially a future position as the years go forward for Marcus Rashford. We're talking when he's hitting 30, could be a prime centre forward. So let's take a little bit more of a look at Marcus Rashford playing in that number 9 role. United need to buy a centre forward in the summer. I'd argue that they need 2 centre forwards as well, a young one and a more mature striker ready to start to put the ball in the back of the net consistently in the Premier League. Rashford, though, could be a bit of a good backup option. In terms of teams that Rashford is really good against, it's teams that play a higher line, teams that squeeze the game so he can utilise his speed, but also his movement. Rashford doesn't stay as a fixed point striker, likes to get into the channels, likes to get onto the wing to receive the ball in those wide areas. Rashford, of course, led the line against Aston Villa. I think it was one of his better games in terms of the overall play as a centre-forward. He did miss chances, and that's something that he needs to improve on, especially when getting played in behind defences. But I liked a lot of his movement against Aston Villa. There were some really good moments. So let's dive into that and have a little bit of a look in terms of the analysis and what he did well. So I picked a few moments from the game against Aston Villa. We've got some creative play, some movement in behind, and also the really good anticipation that led to the Bruno Fernandes' goal. We picked the game up on around 11 minutes. United have previously spin a ball in behind the defence. Martinez is cleared and United are in the final third. What I liked about United is that direct approach. You know, you've got to look at your opponent's weaknesses, and Villa's, quite frankly, is the space in behind their defence. If you can get the ball right and the timing of the run right, you will get consistently in behind the likes of Konsa and Tyrone Mings. So this was a little bit more of a kind of patient build-up play. What I like about Rashford when he's in this kind of number 9 area is he frequently, can make a number of moves. He can drop off, he can spin in behind, he can spin into the channel. But this was an instance where the timing was absolutely perfect after moving off the centre-backs. And it's part of Rashford's game that I really like when he plays as a 9. He's difficult to play against. He moves into pretty awkward positions for centre-backs, and Konsa and Mings really failed to control him at Old Trafford, which I thought led to the United win. So he picked the move up with Bruno Fernandes on the ball. Malacia's just fed Bruno the ball, and then he span in behind with the overlap. We can already see the space that Rashford picked up. There's separation between himself and Ezri Konsa. Of course, Marcel Sabitzer has taken the attention of Tyrone Mings. Bruno Fernandes' vision is one of the best in the Premier League, and his ability to find passes in behind opponents' defence is up there with Kevin De Bruyne at Manchester City. What I like about Rashford is the timing of the play. Bruno's obviously going to communicate with him, going to have a look, going to check when he's going to make that move. The thing with Rashford is he's almost like a sprinter in these positions. As soon as he gets set, he's going to fly in behind the opponent's defence. And what I mentioned before with Rashford off the line, why it's so difficult to defend against a player that moves into these spaces, the awkward spaces as I like to call them, is because you can run on the blind side of players. It's what we see in this move is Marcus Rashford spinning on the blind side of Konsa with Bruno Fernandes finding him with the ball in behind. We can see Konsa is very much attracted to the ball. He doesn't know that, Rashford's spinning in there. I think Tyrone Mings is obviously his attention's taken, but there's got to be some communication there with Ezri Konsa. The ball's fantastic for Marcus Rashford in behind the defence. The first touch is very, very good. Right foot to set himself up on the left foot, and it's really well saved by Emi Martinez. But I think the first touch in this moment is really, really good. Sets himself to strike first time with that left foot, and it's a good shot low, which is what you want to do when facing a goalkeeper in these moments. You want to go for his feet It's one of those things where it's difficult for a goalkeeper to get his hands down in those positions. So a really good effort, but the play from deep, the run, in behind the defence, Ezri Konsa's, taking a look at Bruno Fernandes is really good from Marcus Rashford. That type of play, long term is going to be a reason why he'll become a really top centre forward, which I think, in a way is his destined position. I think at the, in this mid part of his career, from sort of 25 to, maybe 27, we'll see Marcus Rashford predominantly on the left-hand side, but I think long-term that number 9 position could be a really good evolution of Marcus Rashford. I think he's comfortable left, he's comfortable as a number 10, I think he's comfortable as centre-forward and comfortable on the right. But let's move forward to some more uncomfortable play for Aston Villa, this time Rashford picking up a position in the channel. Again, we can see Ezri Konsa feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Rashford's picked up a bit of a space between Ashley Young, the right-back, and Ezri Konsa, the right-sided centre-back. This is why I like him in this position. It's kind of very modern for a striker to pretty much not play up against the centre forward. He's not going to be battling, but he's going to be moving into these areas. And I like as well, in terms of his body shape's really good when receiving. We can see him right now, he's looking a little bit uninterested, but he's very much not. He's waiting for Casemiro to receive the ball, then to engage. And I think the signalling's very, very good to midfielders with Marcus Rashford. We saw before how he was signalling and making that kind of motion to Bruno Fernandes, doing this again for Casemiro. And getting to the comments, guys, did Marcus Rashford mean this flick? I taught the flick over the top to Marcel Sabitzer to get in behind and just fire over the bar. Because I think it's a bit of improvisation again from Rashford. We saw that lovely flick against Newcastle United in the League Cup final that he definitely meant. This is another one, I think, where Casemiro's played to Rashford's left foot. And I think at the moment when he receives, it's a little bit away from his body. He's going to be unlikely to bring that down. So I think he's improvised here, a little dink over the top for Marcel Sabitzer. But it all comes from that kind of almost not looking interested, almost the deceiving Ezri Konsa, and then as soon as he's, Casemiro's received the ball, he's ready to go. Little flick over the top, fantastic creative play from Marcus Rashford on the last line. Something that I think he's improved in recent years is that ability to create for his teammates with little flicks and improvisation, becoming a really good player in that moment. But let's move on to the goal, because what I love about this goal is the anticipation. I've watched a lot of Erling Haaland over the last week, and one of the big things that you get from watching his 50 goals in all competitions this season is he anticipates really, really well. And I want to talk about anticipation because that's a real good trait of a top quality centre forward. Because Rashford's anticipation here is absolutely brilliant. We've got highlighted Ezri Konsa and Tyrone Mings. You can see both of them are very flat-footed, whereas Rashford's in that kind of already planted his foot, ready to explode in a sprinting position before Casemiro has won contact. We've got it freeze frame with Casemiro just before he's won that initial long ball up from Emi Martinez, and Rashford is already ready, spinning in behind the defence, which gives him a massive advantage. As Casemiro wins the ball, flicks it on, you've got a massive advantage for Marcus Rashford in behind the Aston Villa defence. I think it's very, very good in anticipation from Rashford, and goal scorers need to have that ability to spot a moment before the centre-halves have even acknowledged or engaged. Because quite frankly, it gives you that advantage to get in behind. We know Rashford is super, super quick in these moments, so if he's got that anticipation combined with pace, long term, that is a recipe for a lot of goals in the Premier League as a centre forward. I absolutely love this second touch from Rashford. It's almost like a heel flick to get himself across the defender. Ezri Konsa's making that move back, going across the defender to take him out. You're bringing the red card into play if he takes him down. Top quality centre forward play into the channel. In terms of this shot, we'll talk about whether it's the right thing in a little bit, but again, it's relatively good across the goalkeeper. One of the big things that Bruno Fernandes is going to commit to is it being spilled by Emi Martinez into his path, and of course Bruno slotting it away. But I go back to that move again. Can Marcus Rashford carry across the defenders and slide it to Bruno Fernandes? We're thinking, again, the long game. Marcus Rashford becoming a complete forward, needs to add assists to his game. We saw a little flick from Sabitzer, but in this moment, can he come across the defender, draw Tyrone Mings in, and maybe Moreno, and then slide it across with Bruno Fernandes for an easy side foot? Again, decision making is a big thing with centre forwards. You've got to combine that anticipation, decision-making, and whether your teammate's in a better goal-scoring position. You'd probably say right now, with this kind of idea and this angle that we've got, that Bruno Fernandes would have been in a much better position to take the shot than Marcus Rashford. Of course, United scored a goal, so you can't complain too much. Rashford was very alive in the match. I think one of the big things that he could work on is bringing down those long balls. There was a really good pass from Casemiro over the top that he just fails to control, and add those little bits of quality in behind the defence. It's going to be more goals and more assists for Marcus Rashford. So I think long-term, Marcus Rashford's position is going to be the number 9. We're talking at 28, 29. Rashford could become a really, really good centre-forward. And again, look, development. Development is a pathway. It's about learning. It's about improving your game piece by piece. And we're seeing this season, Rashford is in the absolute form of his life. 16 goals and 5 assists in the Premier League. And there is still room for improvement, which is super exciting. I think looking at the United squad, whether there's enough money to buy 2 centre-forwards, which I really think is required this summer, it's probably unlikely. So Rashford maybe getting games as the kind of backup number 9 could be, good for his development, but also good for the tactical side. We mentioned a lot about how Casemiro as an elite level player has massively improved United. Getting someone like Harry Kane into the lineup and playing him potentially as a number 10 behind Marcus Rashford at times, or even kind of the focal point of the attack with Bruno as the number 10 and Rashford from the left-hand side is only going to improve United. I think 1 centre-forward is an absolute must. I think 2 is what I prefer, but I think Man United don't have the cash, and they've got other positions to maybe improve. A number 8's got to come in for me, and a number 6, and potentially a fullback, and potentially a centre-back. That United buying 2 centre-forwards is someone might not be quite there. I think the other side of Marcus Rashford's game as a number 9 that he could improve a little bit more is getting involved in the game. He only completed 6 passes against Aston Villa. I think some of his link play was really good, just needs to come and, a lot more of being that option into feet, little bounce passes off, little, times taking, receiving and driving through the middle of the pitch. But again, a good performance for me through the middle for Marcus Rashford. I think other big standouts in the game, Bruno Fernandes scored his 100th goal in club football in the league. Of course, 42 of those coming for Manchester United, 39 for Sporting, 10 for Udinese, 5 for Sampdoria and 4 for Norova. Really good performance from Bruno Fernandes. Again, the anticipation for his goal, very, very good. Casemiro anchored the midfield. I think it's one of Casemiro's best performances in recent weeks. I think his form has slightly dipped in recent weeks, but this was a really good sign. Won 4 out of his 4 tackles, 2 interceptions, 2 clearances, 3 shots. Of course, hit the bar with a really good shot from the edge of the box. 1 chance creator. It was his best performance by a mile. And a big shout out to Victor Lindelof, who's really stepping up as the centre-back for Manchester United. Clearance off the line, of course, completed 97% of his passes, fed Rashford through in behind. Really positive stuff from Victor Lindelof, who's kind of playing for his Man United future. So that's kind of my thoughts on the game. United, again, top performance puts them in a very commanding position in the race for the top 4. A whopping 7 points ahead of Liverpool and 9 ahead of Tottenham. I think it's pretty much guaranteed that United will play Champions League football, and they've got a game in hand on Newcastle. Should and could finished 3rd in the Premier League. Talking about the Premier League, what we kind of started on, James Maddison, top performance from him this weekend against Leeds United, grabbed himself a nice assist, created 4 chances, 2 big chances, had 2 shots on goal, completed 3 of his 5 dribbles and won 13 of his 18 duels, including 3 out of 3 of his tackles won. The question is, where would he fit in for Manchester United? Should Manchester United sign him? All that good stuff we're going to dive into right now. Manchester United, of course, are very much a work in progress for in terms of positions, in terms of how they're going to develop in the long term, how they're going to evolve as a sort of top quality footballing side. What I mentioned previously, I think Harry Kane is an absolute must through the middle. That's just, something that United need to get done now. I think that's something that they've got to go to the negotiation table and get it just organised and sorted. But in terms of, obviously in the other sort of positions United really need to recruit and utilise, I think, a player that can play in the front 4 positions, or maybe even the, band of attacking midfield with the number 8, could be a really good asset, and that of course is what James Maddison could bring to Manchester United. The reports coming out of Leicester City via the Telegraph today basically saying that James Maddison will be sold in the summer. The reports basically saying that Leicester City have got record losses of around £92.5 million. That was their accounts this early year. So the model of a club that sells the key assets needs to happen this summer. Leicester City want Maddison to be sold for around £45 to £60 million. The big thing here, though, Maddison has only got a single year left on his contract. So if you do some late negotiation, could you bring that fee down? I think when you're looking at this for Manchester United, I think there's other positions that potentially need to be sorted first. We mentioned that number 9 area over and over again. Harry Kane should be the number one priority. That could be anything upwards of 70, 80, 90 million pounds. So signing someone from, as a fee from 45 to 65 million pound, is that too much? I think when we look at Maddison as a footballer, he's absolutely quality. He's been Leicester's kind of best player for a number of seasons now. Even this season in the Premier League, 9 goals and of course 7 assists, which puts him up there with some of the best players in the Premier League. And that's something that we've got to look at, in terms of the standards that he's had. When we're looking at kind of attacking midfielders in the Premier League, in terms of goals and assists, James Maddison sits 4th in the Premier League. He's been directly involved in 16 goals this season, behind Arsenal duo Leandro Trossard and Martin Odegaard, and of course Kevin De Bruyne. In terms of his quality, he's a player that is capable of playing multiple roles and multiple positions. His best performance of this season actually came against Nottingham Forest from the right wing. And I think that flexibility would be crucial for Manchester United. I think that's something that they don't quite have. They've got Bruno Fernandes, that's this super flexible player, where we saw this weekend against Villa, scored a goal, won the game for United from the right wing. Having more players in the squad that can play multiple roles within the team and still have a really good level of performance is exactly what Man United need to do. Under Brendan Rodgers this season, I think his best performance did come in this game. 2 goals and assist, 4 chances created, but very much played kind of inside channel, the inside right channel. United could utilise a player like that. You could either play him as that attacking midfield moving into the inside right channel, or from the right wing, as we saw James Maddison do against Nottingham Forest with, Bruno Fernandes playing maybe as the number 10, maybe utilising, Christian Eriksen in that area, having Diogo Dalot operating from the fullback position in the long term, having Maddison kind of tick inside with Diogo Dalot wide. Could even go to Anthony playing on the left wing. I think Anthony needs to play more football there. I think he's a really good natural winger on the left foot. So having Diogo Dalot in the attacking sense, building with Shaw, Martinez, Lindelof, or Rafael Varane when he comes back from injury next season, could be a really good base for United. But I think that flexibility in there is something that United need. They need players that can play multiple roles and systems, but it is the cost that's the problem, I think. If you're looking at 45 to 60 million for a player that arguably would be a rotation option, that arguably might not start week in, week out. I think one of the big things that we've seen with James Maddison over the years, which is kind of sad, is his injury record has not been great. When you're looking at over the last few seasons, this season he started 24 games. We're looking last season in the Premier League, started 28 games, 12 goals and 8 assists, directly involved in 20 goals. So he's a super good player when he's fit, but that fitness has always been the concern for James Maddison. And I want to bring you up kind of his injury record, and this is something that United really need to consider. So over the last few seasons, he's missed a number of games with knee and hip injuries, and that is the concern with James Maddison, is that when he'll actually go for a medical with these sides, and he might fail it, which could bring the price down. But I think one of the things that makes sense for me is you wouldn't sign him this summer. I don't think Manchester United should get James Maddison this summer. Do I think he'd be a good asset for United to buy under Erik Ten Hag? Absolutely. He's got the quality. But considering he missed 9 games 3 seasons ago with a hip injury, last season 6 games with a knee injury, there is injury concerns there, and that is something that Man United kind of need players that can play week in, week out first. That's what they need to sign first, and I think that's the kind of evolution of Man United's squad, is United need to sign the first 11 first, get the best first 11 they can do, and then sign players like James Maddison, which makes sense to allow United to not buy him this summer and sign him next summer on a free transfer. That's exactly what I'd do. Wouldn't spend 60 million, wouldn't spend 45. 30 potentially would be a good price for him, but anything more than that, you're not thinking in for the long term for Manchester United. A super dominant, creative player who scores goals that would add an extra dimension to United, but I don't think United should sign him this summer. They're my thoughts anyway, guys. Get into the comments below. Should Manchester United sign James Maddison? Of course. Is Marcus Rashford's future as a number 9? This has been the Premier League review. Check out part 2 tomorrow. Of course, subscribe if you're new, like the video, and check out SofaScore, and we'll see you very soon.